So where are you at with it? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm confused as fuck with the Lakers. The trajectory for me with the Lakers this season was, at the top of the season, I was like, this is a team that, they might make some noise in the postseason, but they're not going anywhere. Then that in-season tournament happened, right? And I was like, okay, I'm buying some Lakers stock because the brand of basketball they were playing, it looked like 2020 championship basketball. It reminded me of that, right? You saw the commitment to defense. You saw them committed to turning defense into offense. You saw them attacking the paint. Bron didn't score outside the paint in the championship game, right? Like that was all the shit that they did when they won the championship, and fucking AD turning into like 98 MJ in the mid range, lightning in the bottle shit right there. But and now I was like, okay, I think you stay pat with this group. You see what they can do. You don't get out there and try to look for a trade, and then they lose 4 straight after the in-season tournament. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what the fuck to make out of this team. So where are you at? Do you have any like ideas or suggestions, or do you think that there's a fix with the lineups, or do they need to get out there and get a trade, or what?
So to me, it's really simple. Like we were talking about it with the Pistons, this idea of like filling the 5. It's weird. Basketball is positionless, but it's not role-less. Like you need guys that fill roles. And so, like I said, I like a team with a skill guard, an athlete guard, kind of a taller, slender forward who's more of a perimeter-oriented forward, and then like a big, strong forward. Think like Aaron Gordon as like a perfect example of that type of archetype. And then I want an athletic center that can defend in a bunch of different coverages, right? And so when I look at the Lakers in particular, like they've got a plethora of certain position types, and then they've got weak players playing other position types, right? They have 3 skill guards that are all pretty good, right? Like Austin's pretty good. I'm not as high on D'Lo as everyone else is, but he's a pretty good basketball player. Gabe Vincent literally started for a finals team last year. But they have Cam Reddish starting at the 2. And I know that Darvin Ham is like invested in trying to revamp his career, but the 2 guys they have basically playing the 2 right now are Cam Reddish and Max Christie as like these athlete wings, and they're just not good enough to be starters on a championship team. Looking further down at the 4 spot, that big athletic forward, it's LeBron and Rui Hachimura. They're kind of redundant, and they've been playing Rui Hachimura more in the last few games as they've been doing more switching. But in the big picture, especially as we saw in the postseason, specific matchups that ask Rui to chase over the top of screens, they're going to have trouble in those situations with Rui. And so Rui and D'Lo represent redundancies, and then they have weaknesses at the 2 and 3. And so what's good for the Lakers, there's so much good because Rui is a good player that people will want in a trade. D'Angelo Russell has some value on a discounted deal as a guy who can help run your bench units and is a very good passer who can run pick and roll and do that kind of stuff. They have a first-round draft pick that, because of the Lakers' incompetence, is something that people view as valuable around the league. They have draft assets. So the deal that I've been looking at as of late, I'll be interested to hear what you guys think about this one. So I don't know if you saw yesterday, but Bovada had the favorites to land Dejounte Murray in a trade as the Los Angeles Lakers. And I saw that. One of the deals that I saw that I kind of like is like, you know what, D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura and one more of their smaller deals for Capella and Dejounte Murray is super interesting to me because Dejounte Murray represents that athlete guard that can defend at the point of attack the way that Austin can't, but he's also a very good offensive player. The dude's hitting like 55% effective field goal percentage on pull-up jump shots this year. I was watching tape on him this morning. He can beat people off the dribble like crazy. Like that dude is a legit dribble drive guy, which is something that Dennis Schroeder brought last year, which was super valuable if you guys remember. Like beating people off the dribble is one of the most important elements to getting a defense in rotation so that you're operating with an advantage instead of kind of like stagnant. You know how like the Lakers kind of look stagnant sometimes? It's because LeBron's the only guy who can beat people off the dribble. And so DeJounte could help with that. He's having a career best year in terms of efficiency and knocking down catch and shoot threes. He's learning how to play off the ball next to Trae Young. I really like that specific fit. And then Clint Capella is a legitimate backup center, as good as Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes have been in spurts. I don't view them as guys that could play significant minutes in a playoff rotation. So I like the idea of having like a legitimate backup center / a guy that could play big with. And then you start to look at it and it's like Austin, skill guard, DeJounte, athlete guard, Torian, you know, kind of slender perimeter-oriented forward, LeBron, Anthony Davis. You've got a bench player to come off the bench for Capella. That's where I start to see the Lakers as just more balanced down the roster. And I don't, even if it's not that Atlanta trade, it's just got to be trades that turn those redundancies, D'Lo and Rui, into weaknesses, which is that 2 and 3. Like that's where they need to get a significant upgrade. What do you guys think about DeJounte Murray with the Lakers, though? I'm curious.
I like it. Shit, I'm sold, bro. Like that was a hell of an elevator pitch right there. Yeah. You know, I'm for sure on the side now that you got to shake some shit up and make a trade. I'm for sure on the side of that. And I do like, you know, what you said about Dejounte and Clint. I think that would be a very, 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 very good fit for them. So that's something to ponder for sure.
One quick thing too, like there are two things that matter way more than anything else. Anthony Davis looks better than he's looked since 2020, and LeBron James looks better than he's looked since 2020. So, like, they legit, like last year, Lakers fans would be like, oh, we have 2 top 10 players, and it was like kind of debatable because LeBron, after the foot injury, just wasn't very good, and Anthony Davis literally couldn't shoot and all these other things. Anthony Davis has made 14 of his last 29 catch-and-shoot jump shots. He's legitimately looking confident, knocking down that shot. He's been one of the very best post-up players in the league and is having by far his best post-up season since he came to the Lakers. LeBron is shooting his jump shot better than he has in forever. Like, they have... I really do think this team has a championship potential if they can organize the rest of the roster. Like there is no other team that brings the top end talent that the Lakers bring to the table. There is no other team that can say definitively, we have 2 top 10 players. So like they have that capability. They just have to play to their strengths, and they have to kind of reorient the roster to where it's more balanced.
What bothers me and troubles me, bridging the 2 comments that you just made, though, is you make a trade to calibrate the roster. I'm not confident because of the lineups that we're really seeing the most out of what the current roster could do. And so the idea of mixing that up, like I think any Lakers fan who's been paying attention from Steve Nash forward, right? You know, like you get a guy who you're excited to get. It does not always equal positive things happening, right? Russell Westbrook, one of my favorite basketball players of all time. I literally just every morning try and black out the period of time when he was a Laker.
The math didn't add up there, though. The math didn't add up there. DeJounte makes more sense.
We all agree that was a bad idea in the moment, right? We all agree?
Yeah, well, I was excited about it, but yes. I mean,
Tyler and Mike thought it was going to work.
X's and O's wise, yes. I mean,
in the moment,
emotionally, I was excited about it.
In the moment, when it first happened, I was very excited. Then the next podcast came, and I'm like, how is this going to work? And they're like, John, shut the fuck up and just enjoy basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nigga, the math's not mathing. So, yeah, go ahead.
I also was still firmly on the side that LeBron knows more about basketball than me, and if he wants the guy, then let's roll with that. You know, now I feel like the La GM tag, it's taking a bit of a hit, you know, and with the Lakers, so I'm not really necessarily trusting his talent evaluation as much as I did before he went to LA. So that played a part too.
But I think my concern is, there's too many variables to know. If I knew exactly what this roster was, if Darvin Ham's playing a correct lineup in rotation, then you can say, okay, this lineup is X. And then it's easier to say, if you take these pieces out and put Dejounte Murray in, is Y better than X? I don't know what the value is of X right now, because like Tyler said, like at the end of the in-season tournament, I'm going, I think this team could win a championship. Absolutely. And then right now, they lose those 4 games in a row, and there's some pretty bad basketball in there. And you're like, I just don't know. And so if you're not getting the consistency of the team being close to their ceiling from what the coach is rolling out, it just makes me hesitant. Like, what confidence do I have we're going to get that if you bring Dejounte Murray in? That's my concern.
You're making changes in places where the change may not need to be made. Maybe it's the coaching, regardless of the players you have. You know what I mean? I completely agree with that.
So to be clear, I think 2 things are true. Like I think the Lakers are clearly underachieving this season and should have a better record relative to their talent, and that strategy has been a huge factor there. But I said before training camp that I thought a D'Angelo Russell trade was the safest bet in the NBA this year, and that Rui Hachimura just depended on what kind of player you could get back. And it's literally because these issues have been in place since last year in the postseason, and the lack of having like a really athletic guard that could come face to face with someone like a Christian Brown or a Bruce Brown and not get scared, and scared is the wrong word, but not be able to hang physically, right? We knew they needed that, right? We knew going in that 3 spot was like a big question mark. Like they can either go in on defense with a guy like Vando, or they can go in on offense with a guy like Rui. Like there's all these different options, but we knew that they were flawed options. And so I always saw this as a train headed towards they're in February going to swap D'Lo at least, if not D'Lo and Rui, for upgrades at the 2 and 3. That to me was like just that's all about what their playoff shortcomings were, which we knew at the Denver series, right? That said, within the scope of this regular season, there's to me it's so simple. You start Austin, you start LeBron and AD. Taurean Prince is shooting the shit out of the basketball. You start him at the 3. You start Vando or Cam at the 2. I would go with Vando because I think Cam is a bad offensive player that thinks he's a good offensive player, and Vando is a bad offensive player that knows he's a bad offensive player. And so I think in general, like I'd rather have Vando not want to shoot and get ignored than Cam get ignored and then like try to run pick and rolls and try to thread the needle and turn the basketball
Vando's
over.
Taking like 10 threes this season or something like that, right? Like,
And
so
I
he picks
also
his spots
think
for sure.
I think Vando's not playing particularly well because he's still dealing with his injury. He's not quite all the way there. So, like, in the big picture, I think Vando will eventually get his legs underneath him, and I think he will be a better offensive player than he's been. So, I would be like, until February, Austin, Vando, Taurean, LeBron, AD, run our traditional drop coverage, stop the stupid switching thing that they've been doing, be aggressive, start blitzing ball screens again, and lean into the Austin thing. Because by far the dumbest thing about this Austin thing is they don't use that damn lineup at any point in the game except for to start the game and to start the second half. Austin is their closing point guard. Austin is the guy that they use in all these big groups. It's so silly to me because like there's no reason to start the game with a lineup you have no intention of using at any other time other than to start the game. It literally makes no sense. It's one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen.
And it's a lineup that they've never played. It was like half the games they've played, they've started a lineup they've never started before as a unit or whatever. And yeah, like we said, this team won the in-season tournament over good teams. They look great during the in-season tournament. Then they lose 4 games in a row with different lineups. And then he's like, the solution is not to go back to what was working, but to roll out a completely new lineup. We're a third of the way into the season. Like it just doesn't make any fucking sense to me, bro.
Well, the lineup they used last year, and by the way, I'm not recommending this lineup because I don't think D'Lo should start, but I do think it's actually really interesting that Austin, D'Lo, Vando, LeBron, AD hasn't played yet. Like it's shocking to me that something that he has evidence that works, at least in some capacity, it hasn't even been attempted this year. It's crazy to me that he thought, Cam, Vando, Taurean, LeBron, AD before he thought anything that worked at previous iterations of the team. Like it's bizarre. And I think I almost wonder if it's a point of pride. He benched Austin and then said he's Ginobili. And now if he puts him back in the starting lineup, he's basically admitting he was wrong about that. And I do think there's a certain pride element. And that's the thing, like even if we go to other coaches around the league, even going to like a guy like Steve Kerr, like you don't think that there's a pride element in how reticent he was to start to tweak the lineup and start to give these young guys some opportunity. Like I think that coaches have a lot of ego and it can get in the way.
All I want for the holidays this year is some NBA action. This week, new customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets just for betting $5. An instant dub just for you.
The Lakers have a tough stretch coming up. Boston on Christmas, couple road games against the Timberwolves. So I'm definitely keeping my eye on these lines to see how DraftKings thinks LeBron and them boys are going to stack up.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Jenkins, JENKINS. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on basketball. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code Jenkins. The crown is yours.